Right, it's the Manchester Derby FA Cup final. I'm joined by Mark Goldbridge to talk about what is surely a historic moment. It's the first FA Cup final with both sides in the final. How are you feeling about the game, mate?
I'm really excited about it. Like you say, it's the first Manchester Derby. And it feels to me like, as somebody who's a little bit older, the FA Cup used to be really special when I was a kid. And it feels like the FA Cup has lost its magic. And actually, I think because of the circumstances around you going for the treble and we're trying to stop you and it's the first Manchester Derby, it really does feel like a traditional FA Cup final that's got a lot of excitement about it. But obviously with that excitement comes trepidation that, you know, there's a lot on the line.
I personally think as a City fan, if we beat United, we'll win the treble. I think actually you're the kind of mate weight for the whole treble. Is this a better side than the 99 treble side? I can lay out a few arguments later, but for why I think it might be. But do you think it comes close or is better than the 99 Man United side?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to be very biased because that's the best side I've ever seen, and I lived that at an age where, you know, I was old enough to appreciate football. I think, you know, I've seen people like Mika Richards and Gabby Agbonlahor talk about it, and they were probably still in, you know, short shorts. It was, you know, so I think you've got to have watched it, and I think the problem is it's so hard because you can definitely say that Man City are better because of things like tactics and fitness levels are very, very different. So they would beat them. But there are comparables as well. I mean, Arsenal pushed us close. I think the Arsenal side that pushed United close in 99 is better than this Arsenal side. So that's one thing that goes in our favour. The run to the final was really difficult, but I think Man City's final to the Champions League final hasn't been undifficult. I think it's really hard to do it, but obviously I'm going to always come down on the side of United because I just think we had, was it 3 or 4 homegrown players in it? I'm not really interested in the whole money thing. I mean, I think I'd be a hypocrite if I sat there and said that when many United fans like myself want what Man City have got now, because I think you need that to be successful. And Pep Guardiola is a fantastic coach, and begrudgingly, I hate saying it, but that Man City side is far easier on the eye than I've seen for many years with Man City. I like the Haaland impact he's had, the ability to go wide. So I just think United's midfield was ridiculously strong. I'd still comfortably go with United, but I can see the arguments for it. I'm not in any way dismissing Manchester City as a potentially a great side, and I agree. I think Inter can do it, but I think it's United's responsibility to stop it, which is ironic, really.
Yeah, the worrying thing if you're a United fan or a Liverpool fan or a rival fan in the league is I don't think this City side is at our peak yet. You look at someone like Andy Cole in 99 or Scholesy or Keane. You could argue that some of those performances in 99 were maybe the pinnacle of their career, particularly maybe Roy Keane, for example. But I look at Erling Haaland, I look at Phil Foden, I look at Jack Grealish. Ruben Diaz is not even 25 years old, barely. You know, some of these guys are... We're not even in our peak yet. I mean, that's the worrying thing for the league and for European football is that we're on course for a treble. I think we will beat you on the weekend, not to spoil the video, but I don't care. I love it as a City fan, but I don't know if you feel the same way in terms of have we even peaked yet? I mean, can Haaland surely can only get better from here?
I think it's a great point, to be honest. I didn't think we'd be agreeing with you so soon, but I think it is a great point, and it's something I've spoken about over the last few weeks, is that logically Man City win the title next year, and I've even said the year after that, because you'd be blind if you didn't see what Man City have been building over previous years. This is not about hitting a peak and winning it once. It's about sustainability. And Newcastle have the capabilities, maybe Man United have the capabilities, but it takes time. It's took Man City time to get to where they are now. And Newcastle will get there, but probably not for 3 or 4 years. Man United, same again. And anybody else, whether it's Chelsea or Liverpool, bounce back. So I think if Man City are going to win the title next year, are they going to win the Champions League next year? You could argue that it's easier to do that. And then it's just whether they don't make a Southampton mistake like they did in the Carabao Cup to stop them doing a quadruple. So many people have said it's about how long Pep wants to carry on. And I suppose that is a key factor, because the scary thing is they could do the treble again next year if they do it this year, because I mean, they are the best team in the world. I mean, I don't know how anybody can argue with that. They are the best team in the world and they've proven that. And you're just hoping for those hiccups that happen to all the teams in the world, that they just mess up at some point and stop them doing dominance for years to come.
I do look at United's season. I think it's overrated. I think it's a really overrated season. I think, look, the League Cup...
You're the only one.
Yeah, I know. I know you've been a big defender of the likes of Anthony, and there is just cause for that, of course. It's not been a terrible season. You had a lot of them in the last 10 years. I look at this. I think, you know, conceding 7 to Liverpool, the Brentford result 4. I know that was early in the season, but you do still think that you're one injury to Martinez away. He's still injured, of course. this United side, has anything really changed? Is it better than the Van Gaal side that won the FA Cup? I know a completely different side, but that was a cup team. You know, you won a League Cup with Mourinho. So I think personally, this Man United side...
How do you put us in then? Just the only thing I'd say before I answer is why do you put us third, comfortably third as well? 75, 4 points ahead of Newcastle, only I think 9 off Arsenal. How do you think that's happened? You just think it's just everyone else has dropped off? I mean, it's understandable. Liverpool have dropped off, but I do have a counter argument. But I hear a lot of people saying this, so I don't dismiss it. But I'm just curious as to if it's an underrated season. What do you think that we could have done better?
Look, it's the first season for Ten Hag, right? You have to give him credit for winning the League Cup. I think that's so important, building a base, just like Mourinho did with Chelsea when he first joined the league. That's important. But I grew up with all my mates being United fans, and the standards are so low. I think some of the actual performances on the pitch are really poor. I look at Anthony. I think he's been an abject failure. You're not overly critical of a young, potentially exciting player, but for 90 million quid, I think you've got to come in and instantly make it a difference. Look at Malassi at left back. He was an inexpensive kind of signing, young prospect. Fine, that's a different narrative. But Anthony's come in for the price tag. You have to make a difference. I think he's been so poor. So poor. I think Rashford's tailed off a little bit as well. I think without Casemiro, you've got massive holes in that squad. I'm not trying to shit on Man United, because obviously there's still a lot of quality in that squad. All I'd say is, if as a United fan, I'm interested to see your take on it. Are you going to win a league next season? For the money invested, surely you've got to be a little bit closer to City than I think you currently are.
I think when Ten Hag came in, it was such a mess. Probably the worst dressing room I've ever heard of, and that's always a bad sign when, as a content creator, you're hearing a lot, because that means it's an amateur dressing room, because you are getting stuff all the time, in messages and stuff, and it's coming from the dressing room, and you don't want that. You don't, I'm sure you don't get it from Man City because it's a well-run club. So it was a mess. And I looked at it and I said, Rangnick got it right. He said it needs open heart surgery. So 10 players to compete with Man City, 10 players is probably going to cost you $1 billion. And we all know, and I get into this argument with City fans all the time. I accept we've spent money badly. So, but we still need to spend money. That's the way to do it. So we need to spend about between $750 million and $1 billion, which is a lot. He spent just over 200, so he's only a third of the way there. And I think for a first season, he's done well. I like Anthony. I wanted Anthony. I liked him at Ajax. We haven't really seen what he's all about. I think it's been a reasonable first season. Next season, he's got to go up a level. If you look at Grealish, that's what he's got to do. I'd give him the first season and say, look, I like him. Let's see what happens. The price tag, you're absolutely spot on. He is not a £90 million player. He's a £50 million player. And that, yet again, falls on to recruitment of how Man City do it really well. United do it really badly. Man City have this historical stereotype of buying people for about 50, 60 million, and they end up being world class. United have got this historic thing of spending 80, 90 million pounds on 50 million pound players and heaping loads of pressure on them. And quite rightly, rivals and the media go, they're not a 90 million pound player. So Anthony's never going to be a 90 million pound player. But as a 50 million pound player, I think that's what we bought. And but on the season, I also agree the football's not been great. And I think Ten Hag deserves huge credit because he's had to do what not many managers do when they come in the Premier League. And that is, he's changed what he is to get us where we are. I've seen other managers who you talk about De Boer at Crystal Palace, he didn't change what he was and he was gone very, very quickly. So Ten Hag to me has shown what a great coach he is. And obviously he's a massive admirer of Pep, and he wants to play that style of football. And he's basically turned us into a defensive side that, we do get beat by Liverpool, but then we only concede 9 at home all season. So I really, really am very happy with what we've achieved. But there's still so much to come. And the one thing I would agree with you is the style of football is not the way that Ten Hag wants to play. And we've had to grind out a lot this season.
And very quickly then, what are the kind of transfer targets, feasible kind of names that are kind of linked to United in your book that would work, that are kind of feasible? Are there any kind of standout names out there? Is it Harry Kane predominantly and then the rest kind of fall around him, or is that not reasonable?
I don't think we'll get Kane because I think Spurs will dig their feet in. Probably the same problem Man City had a couple of years ago with him. I think that, we should take that as a warning and ignore it. As much as I think he would add something, you can't waste all summer on a player like that. A striker's needed. I think a midfielder that can, one, replace Casemiro when he's suspended, which seems to be quite a lot, and two, when you do go to the Etihad or you do go to Anfield, you can play a midfield two of Casemiro and, I don't know, a Casido or a Declan Rice, because we got run through at the Etihad and we got run through at Anfield because you've got somebody next to Casemiro, like an Eriksen, who for me has always been an attacking midfielder. And So I think that would be really important. And then, you know, with those goals and a bit more solidity in the midfield, I think you hopefully become the Arsenal of next year. We're not winning the title next year. That's not happening. I've openly said I'll shave my hair off if we win the title. I just don't see anybody other than City.
I can't wait to see that, mate. You got a great hairline, so don't shave it off. Final question, then we'll approach in the kind of final question. How do you go into the game? How do you beat City? What are the weaknesses? And obviously, finally, sort of, will you win the FA Cup?
I don't think he's going to do this, but we beat you in January with Luke Shaw and Varane, and they did a really good job on Haaland. And you've got to shut Haaland down to have any chance. So I would play Shaw and Varane. I think you'll play Lindelof, and I think that makes us a little bit more weaker against the Haaland threat. Fullbacks and wingers have got to play well. Man City have become such a good side. They've always traditionally played against the low block quite narrow, but now they go wide because they've got that Haaland threat. The wingers were terrible at the Etihad at the start of the season. They left us absolutely overrun, and that's why, you know, it could have been a cricket score, that. But I think at Wembley, no Martial. I wouldn't say our attack is scintillating at the moment. We're going to have to be really well organised. And I think one of two things will happen. Either if United are going to win, it's going to be tight, 1-0, 2-1. Or I think Man City will win 3 or 4-0. I think it will go one of the two ways. That's just how I feel it will go.
What is it? Get off the fence. What is it? You obviously have
I've got to go with the United win. I've got to go with the United win. I'm completely open to the fact. It's a bit like when you have when an asteroid nearly hits Earth. I'm not in denial that the asteroid could hit. And if it doesn't, we've been very lucky. But yeah, I've got to go with the United win. I mean, it's so important to the fans. And I agree with you. I think if we're fortunate that we have an opportunity to try and stop it, because, you know, it could be Chelsea in a final and you're hoping for somebody else. So Man City are a better team than us. It's not a lie, is it? So we are the underdogs. But it's a derby, and we have done it in the past.
I think we'll smash you 4-0.
I could see why. I'm not even wound up by it. I mean, Man City are capable of. I mean, I watched the Bayern game. I watched the Real Madrid game.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a really interesting game, mate. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Obviously, make sure you check out Mark's stuff on his channel and obviously everywhere on social. I'll see you soon, mate. Good luck in the game. Well, obviously not good luck, but you know what it is.
No worries, mate. Cheers. Thank you very much.